Hi, I'm Angie, and welcome to my psychoeducation on anxiety and reconnecting your mind, body, and soul and healing your anxiety. So, I am outside. I didn't think it would be really noisy here, but it is. Three airplanes have flown over me. I live right by an airport, so that can be loud. And then there's also a road here, and there's a lot of cars that go by that are loud, but whatever. I have to get over it because I wanted to do it here and do it outside. So I have my master's in social work. I have been in the field for about 3 or 4 years since getting my bachelor's, and then over a year since I got my master's degree. And I've been doing therapy and counseling with a lot of people who have anxiety, depression, trauma, substance abuse and use. So I just kind of wanted to share what I share with the women that I work with, and it has been so helpful to them, and they're so thankful and grateful because they didn't know about this. So I just wanted to share this with some people that are close to me, those who follow my page and who may be interested in learning more about anxiety, depression, and trauma, and how it affects our body, and how we don't need to allow it to, impact our life the way that it does. So I've been struggling with anxiety probably since I was a kid. I just never really realized that it was anxiety until I learned more about anxiety and was like, wait a minute, like that was anxiety that I was experiencing. Like I was a really scared kid, but it was internally. Like I would only share some of it sometimes. I was really afraid to talk to like boys like for a long time. And I've struggled with making friendships because, anxiety, you get stuck in your head, you worry that people are going to judge you, that's social anxiety, things like that. So yes, medication helps, and it has been helpful because I have really gained my voice since being on medication, but that's not the only thing. There's a lot of things that intersect in treating anxiety and managing it and learning to live with it and not allow it to control you like it often does. So I just want to talk about anxiety today. I probably won't talk about depression too much, but a lot of the tips that I give are pretty similar in helping with depression, and I'll get into that. So thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, you can comment, you can message me, whatever. So we're going to talk about like childhood, attachment issues of abandonment. So anxious attachment. It's people with this attachment style have problems trusting others. They worry that people will abandon them, so they often seem clingy or needy. So signs of anxious attachment in children: they have anxiety, fear of strangers, extreme distress when separated from parents, crying when caregivers cannot easily comfort them, clinging to parents and caregivers, not exploring as much as other children may be, difficulty controlling negative emotions, and having poor relationships with other children. So you are an anxious child, you have anxious attachments, so then you grow up because there was nothing to intervene and to help you, and nobody helped you learn how to regulate your emotions or how to cope. So this is what it can turn into as an adult. You can have behaviors that smother or drive your partner away. You may have a constant need for contact and support from others. You may fear of being underappreciated, feeling unsure if a partner can be counted on, hypersensitivity to rejection and abandonment, need to increase feelings of security, negative self-view or self-worth, self-esteem issues, positive view of one's partner, vigilance to signs that a partner is pulling away. So if they're like acting weird, all of a sudden you get really anxious and that fear starts building up that something changed and they're going to leave you. Worry over losing a partner, yearning to feel closer and more secure with others but not really knowing how to do it. You may be afraid of emotions, intimacy, and emotional closeness because you're afraid of being left. You want to pull away when a person gets needy. You may be independent and you don't need anybody else. You disregard other people's feelings. You might not have healthy boundaries. You might be a people pleaser, have a hard time saying no. Need constant reassurance and validation, become obsessed or overly fixated on somebody, crave intimacy but you can't trust others, and then you might be anxious or jealous when you're away from your partner because of like that fear of losing them and that fear of abandonment. So attachment anxiety may also result from experiences during childhood or later in life. These can include overprotective parents, abuse or neglect, Attachment serves as a way to protect you in terms of survival, because when we're a baby, we have to depend on others to take care of us, to feed us, to keep us clean, to give us comfort, to keep us safe. And if those needs aren't met, we're going to become anxious because we don't know where that's coming from. We were never fulfilled, and we struggle with that later in life, and we may not even realize where it stems from. So a child will experience anxiety and seek comfort from a parent. If that child does not succeed in receiving comfort from attachment figures, their caregivers, a feeling of security is not developed, which means that fear, anxiety, and distress remain elevated. This could repeat itself through life in terms of friendships and relationships in which others do not provide expected comfort. If you grew up in an unpredictable environment, you're more likely to be anxious. What comes to mind when you think of an unpredictable environment? It could be maybe having a parent that doesn't know how to regulate their emotions, like they're really angry. You could have somebody in your family that is a bully. They don't validate your feelings. They put you down. They make you feel like shit. So an unpredictable environment could be something like that, like a chaotic environment where things aren't predictable. You never know what you're going to get when someone walks through the door. So maybe a caregiver or sibling was unable to manage their emotions, and they projected their negative emotions onto you. So what is projection? I'm just going to read a little blurb that I have printed out from the groups I do at the residential facility I work at. So, understanding projection. Projection is an unconscious defense mechanism stemming from the ego. In projection, you take an unacceptable part of yourself, such as your feelings, thoughts, tendencies, and fears. You disown it and place it onto someone else. Projections contain our blind spots. Although almost everyone has engaged in projection at some point in their lives, it's often difficult to know when you're doing it. Projection can cloud your vision and skew your perception of reality. This makes it hard to see a situation for what it is, and instead morphs a person or situation into something it is not. So when you engage in projection, you become susceptible to self-victimization and blaming other people for something you need to address yourself. So common projections are fear and anxiety, shame, insecurities, childhood pain, trauma, suppressed fantasies, repressed desires, parts of ourselves that we don't understand, our parents or caregivers, expectations, what we expect others to do. When we put expectations on people, it can be really harmful. I know when people have expectations of me that I didn't even ask for, and then I don't meet them, and then they're mad. That's not a reflection of me, that's a reflection of them. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. Judgment, unfinished business, pent-up emotions, and core beliefs. So projecting is like dumping clutter into someone else's living room and then hating them for being messy. That's a really good example of what projection is. It's a way to avoid the responsibility of dealing with your own emotional clutter and instead making it someone else's fault. Projection is often calling for self-reflection and setting healthy boundaries. So just kind of want to say what projection is a lot. So we tend to do that. It's easier to blame somebody else for making your mood worse when it's your responsibility to take care of your mood, to use your coping skills so that you don't project that onto somebody else, because what does that do? That creates resentment when we do that. There's been times where I come home from work and I had a bad day and I'm really short and aggressive with my partner, and it has nothing to do with him. It's just because I had a shitty day, and that's not an excuse. I have to be able to look within myself and say, oh, I had a shitty day at work. I'm taking it out on somebody else, and they don't deserve it. They didn't do anything. They weren't there. So holding yourself accountable, using your coping skills, going for a walk, reflecting and asking yourself, why am I behaving this way? Oh, because I had a shitty day at work. All right, there's the root of the problem. Now I don't need to project it onto my partner or whoever anymore. All right, so here's a really big concept of anxiety, which is people pleasing. So are you a people pleaser? Guess what? That's a trauma response from being in an unpredictable environment. We become people pleasers as a defense mechanism to save ourselves from the projection of others. How often have you experienced someone in your life that is angry and you immediately believe that they are angry with you? You are the cause of their anger, and you didn't even do anything because they project their anger onto you. So you do whatever you can to protect yourself and to make them happy so that their anger does not get turned on you. Like I said, as a way of protection. Then, as you grow up, you continue with that pattern, putting others' needs before your own and not even being aware of it, of the reason, until considering the root of where it all began. Whether we want to believe that our childhoods and environments negatively impact us or not, our first 5 years of life set the foundation for how we view and interact with the world. We can look at our childhoods and heal our wounds without blaming or becoming the victim. Regardless, it's the truth. Caregivers do the best they can. We don't want to blame, but it's important to look. People are people and humans are humans. They make mistakes, and people do the best with what they've got. The cards they have, you do the best, but it's your job to heal yourself and to move forward so that you don't pass it on to your kids or to anybody else that's close to you, or that you mistreat people in your life. It's on you to do the deep work and the healing. So, like I said, caregivers do the best with what they're given. However, it's our job to work and heal the past hurts. And it is difficult to reflect on our past hurts and traumas. If it were easy, we'd all be walking around better for it. But it isn't. The only way that we can move forward with your life and in a positive direction is to heal. Because the past stays present until it's processed. Let that sink in. The past stays present until it's processed. It means to reflect and look at our past with a different lens. The lens of a person that has learned where their anxiety and depression stem from and see that hurt people hurt people. What does it mean to feel your feelings? I feel like a lot of people misunderstand what that means. So it means that when you're having anxious thoughts, you close your eyes and breathe and see if you can feel where the anxiety is in your body. A lot of anxiety sits in our chest. And that's why people, when they have panic attacks, they think they're having a heart attack, because their chest, it's in their chest. So like taking deep breaths and focusing on the chest until it disappears. Another tip on dealing with anxiety is getting yourself out of your head. That's what anxiety is. We create these scenarios in our head and build this world that's not even reality. It's your perception of reality is skewed. It's essentially a delusion. So get out of your head and get back in the present. So what I always tell people to do is set a timer for 10, 15, 20 minutes, however long. Let yourself feel your emotions physically and mentally. If you can't feel it in your body, just let your mind, think about it and reflect on it. Because when we push it down, it's going to come back up eventually, and it's going to be 10 times stronger and potentially worse. So let yourself feel how you feel. And then once the timer goes off, change what you do. Utilize a coping skill. Go for a walk. Finish a project. Do something creative. Make an uplifting playlist and dance to it. The best cure for mental health is movement, because it gets us out of our head and into the present and present in our body. That's what mindfulness is. That's what yoga tries to teach you, if you're open to that. So another fun facts I like to base my examples off science is it takes 10 minutes for our brain chemistry to change. 10 minutes. That's it. So think about that. Set your timer and then move on. Don't let it consume you. Because our brains can only associate similar emotions with similar emotions. That's why when we are happy, we can only think of other times we've been happy. When we're sad, we can only think about all the other times we've ever been sad. The same with anger. So we can sit there and let the emotions consume us and ruin our day, or we can use our coping skills to move forward. By doing this, you're allowing yourself to feel your emotions without suppressing them, but you're not letting them ruin your day. I know for me, there have been days when I was depressed all day. Then 7 p.m. hits and suddenly I feel fine. And then I'm annoyed at myself for losing my day off. So give yourself the space to feel, to heal, and reflect. And then move on. Do not dwell. So anxiety is a prime example of the connection between mind and body. You have a thought and your mind, you have a thought and your body immediately reacts, causing you to have shallow breath, increase in heart rate and blood pressure, sweating and becoming flushed. The only way to regulate these physical symptoms is to take deep breaths and regulate your system, your nervous system. Like that. So, to regulate your system, you got to breathe from the stomach, not the chest. Because we have receptors, you can't see me, but we have receptors at the bottom of our lungs that don't get as much oxygen when we take shallow breaths. So taking those deep breaths It allows those receptors at the bottom of your lungs to get oxygen. And this oxygen, goes to the brain. It provides the brain with more oxygen, which allows the brain fog to clear. If you don't know what brain fog is, it's kind of like when you can't focus because like your emotions and your feelings and thoughts are clouding your mind. That's all you could think of, and you can't really do what you're supposed to do. If you're in school, if you're at work, it's hard to be present because you got other things going on in there. So more oxygen and blood to the brain helps that fog clear out. It gives us the ability to use logic again, because in the anxiety and depression, sometimes logic doesn't work. It helps regain its function of thinking clearly. So imagine a heart monitor. You know how a heart monitor goes like this? Our nervous system does the same thing. So when we breathe shallow, it's like this. When we take deep breaths, it helps regulate our nervous system and our brain chemistry. Our stomach, our gut instinct, our gut is attached to our nervous system. It has nerves that go all the way to your brain. So that's why, like, when you have anxiety, you kind of don't feel well and you don't want to eat because, like, your nervous system, your body is communicating that something's not right and you've got to listen to it. So take those deep breaths and get your nervous system balanced. Not like this when you take shallow breaths. Deep breaths. So remember that the little things make a difference, like deep breathing. Like sometimes I think when people are struggling with anxiety and depression, going for a walk, deep breathing, like how's that going to help me? It's not small. Like I'm dealing with these big emotions and big feelings and thoughts, and I just don't think going outside or deep breathing is enough. Okay, so if it's little, if taking deep breaths is small or going outside is small, like isn't it worth trying it and doing it and seeing if it helps? But like I said, when we're happy, all we can think about is happy. And when we're sad, we can't think about anything that's happy. And sometimes we just want to sit there and sulk and be sad because it's comfortable and it's familiar, depending on, how you were raised. Did you have to self-cope? Did you go isolate because you had nobody else there to help you understand these big emotions and work through them? So you got to get out of your comfort zone. Do you want to be better or not? Do you want to let your depression and anxiety consume you for the rest of the day or not? You gotta make that decision. Do I want to try to take some deep breaths and see if I feel better? Do I want to feel it in my body and breathe through it and see if I feel better? Do I want to go on a walk for 10 minutes and see if I feel better? Or dance to that playlist I made? Like, you have to want it. You have to want to feel better. But we get in that negative mindset, and that's why I said bring yourself out of your mind and bring yourself back into the physical, into the now. It's another plane going. At least that's a little guy. There were like 3 really big planes that went over before I started recording this. So remember that the little things make a difference. Sometimes it seems so simple, we think, how could going outside or deep breathing help? Until it actually does. So going for a walk in the sun, it can really put things into perspective for me. I can be really depressed and go outside and walk for like 30 minutes, and then I'm like, hey, life's not too bad, So it's all about perspective. So, I kind of wanted to talk about, when I was talking about like the mind and body connection, there's a really great book called The Body Keeps the Score. I'm developing a mentorship life coaching program, and that's something I will be having my clients read. If that's something you're interested in, I'll talk about that a little later. But anyway, The Body Keeps the Score, it talks about how anxiety and trauma stay in our minds and bodies. When we have anxiety and flashbacks to the past, our brains cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is a memory. Your brain thinks it's happening again, which is why your body will react in the same way that it did when it happened. That's why it's important to breathe, ground, and cope. To bring yourself out of your memories and into the present moment by reminding yourself that you're safe and that this is not happening to you again. If logic doesn't help when you are anxious, pinch yourself. Put an ice pack on your chest. Go outside, scream into the forest, whatever. Bring yourself out of your mind and into the present. And remember to be kind and compassionate to yourself. We treat friends better than we treat ourselves. So, if you wouldn't say something to a friend, then don't say it to yourself, Like, be kind and compassionate and patient with yourself. Because like I said, if healing was easy, we'd all be walking around better, and this would be a better world. But it's not. It's really, really fucking hard, honestly. It really is. But, like, do you want to stay in the same negative mindset and keep living the way that you are, I mean, if you do, whatever, it's your life. But if you want more and better for yourself, then you got to do these things. You got to learn about your body and your mind and, theories about anxiety and depression and trauma, because the past stays present until it's processed. Processing it can be hard, but sometimes you've got to, or you're going to be stuck in the past, and that's harmful. Negative emotions, they create disease and stuff in our bodies. So remember that. So I gave you a few tips on how to manage anxiety. And of course, I have to talk about hypnotism because it can help as well. So these tips, it's a way to help connect yourself back to your body again and help manage anxiety when it comes up. But if you want to get to the root of the problem, then hypnotism's the way to go. Our subconscious mind holds a lot of memories and experiences that we may have suppressed, because our conscious mind, I can look around and absorb everything that I see consciously, but my subconscious mind is picking up on the things that my five senses might not necessarily be picking up on. Because our eyes, we take in everything, but our conscious mind can only pick a few things at a time. But our subconscious mind is absorbing everything. Advertisements, things that we see in the media, we might not think it impacts us, but it truly does on a subconscious level. So hypnotism gets to the subconscious mind, where we hold these thoughts and memories. It helps bring them out, heal them, and return them safely to your conscious mind, where it can no longer hurt you. So if you're interested, my hypnotism sessions are $35 a session. Like I said, I'm going to start becoming a life coach and having a mentorship. I don't know if that's the words I want to use yet. I'm still kind of figuring it out. Where I help guide you through life while providing you with resources to look at life differently and develop a new life-changing perspective on the world. I've done it all myself, the healing and the work and the journey, and I just feel so much better, because life's really hard and the world is bleak and it seems like it's getting worse. So if anything, I'd rather have a better, healthier head on my shoulders than not, So I'm taking the time to heal myself and look at the way that I talk and how I impact people, and just reflecting deeply. And I just want to provide that with others who are interested. It is spiritual based. So chakras, because there's a lot of things that go on a really, really small level. So before we can work on the big issues, you got to work on the small issues. So it's chakra based, earth based, things like that. Philosophical, because I just really love that shit. And I just want to invite people who are interested in that into my circle and my journey. And that's going to be, I think, $50 a month. So you would have 2 sessions with me a month, and then I provide an outline of videos you watch, books you read, PDFs that you read, and then we have a discussion about it. Because I just really want to help people look at life from a new perspective and really enjoy it for what it is. So anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed my psychoeducation on anxiety and reconnecting the mind and body back together, because historically, those were 2 separate things. You have doctors who look at the mind, and then you have doctors who look at the body, but they're connected. The mind controls the body. It really does. The brain is so phenomenal in what it can do and what it does do, negatively or positively. So do you want your brain to, do you want it to go negative or do you want it to go positive? I'm not doing a good job explaining that, but you get it. If you know me, you get it. And we would have a great time if you joined sessions with me, or if you became my mentee. That would be awesome. So thank you for coming on this journey with me, and I'll talk to you later.